everyone, it's Peter again, and today I'm going to be bringing you some Wargame Airland Battle Beta. So this is a post-commentary of a 1v1 match I played, and it's basically to demonstrate what being very aggressive at the very beginning of the game can do and how successful this tactic is. Even so, the game does drag out half an hour because I'm a very... it seems at odds with the playstyle in this, but I'm actually a very cautious player, and some of the best scores I've had is where I haven't actually necessarily had the most kills on my team, but it's by far the least losses. So I suppose that kind of suits with my elitist British thing, where you get there some really good expensive units, and you tend to be a bit better and then just a bit less silly with them. However, this is at complete odds with the actual skill level. My actual skill level in the game isn't amazing, and you probably see me making some errors here, which I don't need to make, so that ends up throwing away units. So as you can see, I liked to take straight away and get my artillery support, as those the FV4 through the abbots you can see in the top middle. The tracked rapier is my anti-air, so that's just something that just like a rapid fire missile radar launcher, which takes out the air, because obviously one of the biggest additions to the new Wargame Airland Battle game is the addition of the air units, that's planes, etc, etc. So I'm going to start off immediately picking that scout, that recon helicopter, which has some green jackets in it, so they're an okay infantry unit. I'm going to send them right to the front to see about scouring an enemy, because they're going to get there much faster than the rest of my units. I waste time here looking at cover, etc, which would be the base place for those units. I should just immediately have sent everything forward and then started looking about. So as you can see, I'm going to select all of my ground infantry, and I'm going to select move fast, and I'm going to send them up to the front there. So they're all going to head onto the road and start heading up. Now I meant to click on my abbots there, but I clicked the anti-air. The first thing I'm going to do is just fire in the vague direction between hotel and golf to try and slow their advance up, or just just to harass them a little bit, just because I can. But then I realised that they're actually going to be taking the road just like I am, because he'll have select move fast. So that makes a lot of sense. As my links almost landed, so I'm gonna get my guys out of there. I enjoy doing this post-commentary. I don't always have the time for it, because obviously it means the video takes a lot longer, because I'm then having to talk over it as I watch it back. But I enjoy it because I get to see all the mistakes I've made, I get to go into a little more detail, and it's good to see games from that perspective, because you see a lot of things you don't really notice before. So there we are, I'm getting another link, so that's just so I can put them on the right, because my main push is going to be on the left, because Golf, Delta and Charlie there all have have the high cap points, and I'm not necessarily worried about capturing the zones. That means I can enter through the middle, just because I'm not too worried about that. So yeah, my lineup is obviously another tracked rapier for the anti-air. I've got some Spartans with ATGMs, they're anti-vehicle rocket launchers, so that's my infantry, which I've just selected there. I'm going to put them in the forest, because obviously you want to keep your infantry in a forest or in the urban buildings. That's when they're most protected and best at hiding. I then also have my that vehicle there, I think it's a Striker, which has the same sort of ATGM support, so that's like long range locking on missile. I then have my Challenger tanks, which are arguably the best tank in the game, and we still use them today, although it's not that particular version of the Challenger. The British Army uses a much improved version, which, in terms of just being able to fight everywhere, is probably one of the best, if not the best tank in the world at the moment. It's also incredibly expensive, and a lot of it is, in terms of what it can actually do, is still kept secret, which is a fairly impressive fact, although anyone hacking into BAE systems could probably find a bit too much out. So yeah, I'm playing with a British deck, because I'm British, and I love using all of one faction, especially. I like playing as Britain, just, I don't know why. I don't really think it's just national pride. I love the sort of infantry and the sort of doctrine they use, which is good with their units. So yeah, I may make another video of a different country. I'm not entirely interested in that. I really wasn't in Wargame European Lesser Relation, and to be honest, that game wasn't perfect. I really didn't enjoy it as much, and I have to admit, this game I've had a lot more fun. Obviously it's the beta, and it's very limited. Like it's nowhere near the full game. You can tell that by just looking at the Steam download. I think it's like 4 gigabytes big, whereas the actual game is going to be like 16. So it's really not big. It's not. There's only like 3 different maps at the moment, some multiplayer modes. It's tiny. So that's me bringing up a Sultan, so I can cap Charlie. So that's my units moving forward, so he's not going to necessarily know where I am, and I'm heading into Delta. At this point, I kind of realize my enemy's done something. I don't know what he's done, but he's either being very, very cautious or he's made a mistake. Because as you can see in the top left there, he's actually pulled his original command unit out of his starting location, which means he's not gaining any points. He doesn't actually have anywhere for his army to come in from. So what he must have done was pull his command vehicle out, try to recruit his army, then realise that he's got nothing coming in because he's got no vehicle there, and eventually he does put a command vehicle back, but that's without even capping any of the other places. So all that time he's wasting time, whereas I'm gathering my army and gathering more forces, getting them in, getting a nice defensive line really quite far into the map. I mean, that's over halfway through. I'm about to cap Charlie, and then I'm just going to, later on, I'll bring something in and catch Delta, and that means I've just got a huge point bonus over him, which is a great thing. And I've got my infantry there set up in that town, just waiting for him to move forward, and they're going to be a really solid defense. They'll take out any sort of infantry or armor units coming at them. So yeah, that's me, and then obviously that's him recapping Hotel to start trying to bring his forces in. And we do actually see him later on in the game. You know, it wouldn't be fun if you didn't see the enemy at all. However, once I have started seeing him, I tend to own him. Oh, also I need to apologise for the Steam in this. It's been a bit, I guess, a bit embarrassing. I'm not sure if Andy Cam will record the Steam, but I do eventually turn it off once it gets annoying. Basically, you know, when you're in the beta of the game that everyone's looking at, they tend to ask if it's good or not. And you have to sit there going, no, alright, leave me alone, I'm trying to record, be a professional. So yeah, as you can see there, my scouting unit's going on the right, so that just means I can get some eyes on the right, so I can get some early warning if they're trying to do a super flank, which you need to do, because cutting off your supply lines and your supply routes is a valid tactic in this game. If you get there and if you capture the points, so if you take out their places where, obviously some of these sectors which you can control are the ones that allow you to bring units from off the map. If you take all of them away from the enemy, he can't actually bring in any more units. So he's effectively crippled, which is just the best position to be. And you just then be careful and mop him up. Really, that's how it works. Obviously, if you have no way of gaining reinforcements, the best tactic is to then just to be a guerrilla force to try and take out the enemy, but with at least damage to yourself. But that just doesn't happen in a game like this. It's too difficult to micromanage. That's me putting the green jackets in a little bit of an overwatch position in that town. I do approach on the right hand side just to try and get a bit of a flank on the enemy, mainly because of the verticality. This map from this angle here doesn't look like it. If I start zooming in, you'll actually see how much of the ground undulating. I mean, it's very, very, very wavy, and I think they could do a much better job at actually showing that on the map, because it is very difficult to see what's up and what's down without paying real close attention. They kind of have that little rocky cliff ugly thing that's going on, which can be used to see it, but I prefer if they just put a little more effort in to try and show it off. It's difficult to do. I wouldn't know how to do it, and I do not blame them at all for not being perfect, because I wouldn't have the first clue. But it would be nice if that was a possibility, especially as it being such a huge feature of the new game. So that's just me moving my forces forward, kind of being like, well, what's he doing? Where is he? What's happening on? Is this some trick which he's about to steamroll all my forces and overrun me? Which is probably a smart move in my part, because I do know some players who have some fantastic battle stratagems, which is lure them in and then wipe them out. And so I'm just being very, very, very careful. That chopper has a bit more of a view range than the green jacket, so I'm just bringing that up. It's not too much of a loss if I do end up losing it, and in fact I do end up losing one later on. But in terms of kills to deaths, it's not perfect, this battle, I have to admit. I lose some stuff, but it's a fairly good ratio, for me at least. I'm really not very good at this game. So the first thing I do is go, fantastic, scout guy, all on his own. Before I send my links any further out to scout out this range, I'm just going to take this guy out. And my links with its rocket pods is just gonna wipe this poor guy out. I mean, look at that. Boom, 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 and he's gone. There we go. Easy 45 points. And I'll send the links back to rearm and repair. Well, not repair, rearm. So, I think this is probably an important note about this game, is that if you do want your tanks and your vehicles moving at a significant speed, you really need to use the move fast option, and you need to use the roads. So actually having units lying in ambush or just controlling and dominating the roads is a very important aspect of the game, and I've seen some fantastic ambushes and offenses being made purely just over the main roads in the game, which are linking certain areas, and it's just, there are so many layers of tactics. You can play games like this. I've seen Russians literally doing their whole doctrine of, I want to avoid the word spamming, but they just pour the endless supply of cheap metal and manpower in, so you get waves and waves and waves of their cheap tanks. And me, I think I recorded the battle, but it wasn't really sufficient enough to actually upload. Unfortunately, it wasn't of a particular quality that I like. So basically, we had a setup around the forest, and he was just sending these guys at us, and the field was amazing. It was just covered in bodies and smoking wrecks and explosions from my artillery. It was fantastic. Speaking of which, I'm just going to send my artillery right in there and go, you know what, oh wait, no, I can't quite reach his base. And I think that's a good thing. They've clearly thought out the maps and the ranger's artillery, so you can't just sit in your spawn and just and attack their spawn. That isn't across the board at all. Like, for instance, you can use anti-air assets, you can move them in closer, so they can do that. But it's just a little bit of a thought, so you can't immediately just hit their spawn from your spawn. So your units, I mean, maybe if you're a little slow off the bat, you lose everything. Because artillery in this game, rather than European escalation, is actually a lot more and a lot less potent. For instance, it's more accurate in general, I find. However, it does a lot less damage to armor. So even that light armor and heavy armor will be stunned a lot more, but they won't be destroyed necessarily. However, it destroys and does horrible, horrible, horrible things to infantry. So if you have infantry camped out in a town, or if you have an enemy infantry, like a thorn in your side, camped out in a town, destroying everything you send at it, just sit back and blow them up with artillery, and they will suffer. I suffered from this because I had a very strong infantry defense. Oh, there we are. That's the first hit from the enemy was one of my lynxes being taken out by a very nicely placed anti-air asset in that forest there, which he does move. I probably respond by, I don't want to say nuking, but taking my revenge. I love the effects in this game. I really do. It's great. I take my revenge by artillery and a long sustained artillery bombardment on that town. Obviously I have my ATGM there, so if they try and move any vehicles up any further, they're just going to get hit by 4 different rockets at the same time, so that's going to be worthwhile for me to keep them there. I really would like to start flanking with those, but I don't quite feel that the strikers and the green jackets on their own would be a sufficient force, and if he has any troops hiding in the trees to the left there, they just go right out, so I'll leave them for now. I do like watching my artillery strikes hitting, so it's a nice effect. You see trees being blown up, fires starting. As you can see there, a fire has started, and I'm just going to order another one, because it didn't actually give me any points for that, so it obviously didn't hit anything. And it's good to try and a good part, a very, very strong strategy is called denying the ground to the enemy, and that's actually a lot about what British infantry doctrine is. You send out patrols, and it's less about kind of keep the ground for yourself. It's more about denying the ground to the enemy, so you have more room to maneuver. As you can see here, my striker has a terrible first volley, but a more successful second volley, and takes out that anti-air asset there. He was just rolling right in the middle in the open towards the forest, which don't do. It's a bad idea. He may not have been expecting any units in Gulf because I hadn't actually capped it, but that's fair enough. And I realised I've got a ton of money saved up, so I go ahead and reinforce by buying another jet. So I've got 2 Harriers, which are the anti-ground units that Britain has. Fantastic weapons, like they really are. They've only recently been out of commission. They were very potent forces. So I then ordered another Challenger just to reinforce my forces on the left there. Obviously my main push is in the middle. So I want to move these Challengers to some more cover. Unfortunately, those bushes weren't quite big enough, so I've just kind of give up, and I hope they have a little bit of cover there. Yeah, meanwhile I'm pushing my green jackets up on the right to try and scope out. The best part about infantry is that they don't run on fuel, they run on food, and they can just man up, so you don't need to worry about them running out. You need to worry about them running out of ammo, obviously. I moved my challenger up to kind of keep pace behind the infantry, because you know, infantry are a lot cheaper than challenger. It's a hugely expensive tank, however it is the best tank in the game in my opinion. It's so tough, it can take a ton of hits and it deals out massive damage at a really long range. Its rate of fire isn't fantastic, but when it hits, and it usually does hit, it will destroy things in one hit. So yeah, that's me ordering another barrage to try and flush them out of that forest before moving in. I mean, the slower, I know it's a very slow-paced game for me, but I think that's my game style in this sort of game, is just be very methodical, and just kind of move up. Now, the mistake here, I found, I really want to order, so I straight away order another anti-air asset so I don't have to use my planes, because I don't like using the planes, because if I send my plane there, it may get taken down by any anti-air he's got hidden. So I really want to use the planes only when I'm fairly confident that he doesn't have any anti-air assets left. Because planes cost a lot, and the opponent gets a lot of points if they take them down. However, I will get a lot of points for taking down, well, a lot. That's a fairly significant amount of points for taking down his helicopter. So none of those units there at the moment have the ability to take down this chopper. However, my opponent very nicely doesn't spot them and has his helicopter fairly just sitting there, doing absolutely nothing. Unfortunately, because it's not moving, it disappears off my screen, even though my green jackets are right there. I think it's because of the forest hiding them. However, I just directly control my Harrier, which you can do, and tell it to attack him, and straight away it sees him and fires a rocket, and I immediately evac it. It does get shot at here, however, I'm lucky enough that it does. Oh wait, no, it does. Oh yes, I forgot about that. There's the bonus of post-commentary. That's the worst thing that's happened in this game for me, is that Harrier gets taken down. As you see, it's probably good to have a tornado. If I'd had a Harrier and a tornado, the tornado probably would have taken down a helicopter without being destroyed, because they're faster and they're much harder to hit with anti-air assets. So obviously I was a bit upset about that, and I went, you know what, that's it, I'm going to start moving in, and I'm going to take out the anti-air so I can push my place forward. I need to make him pay for that loss. So obviously a fantastic thing happened there is I see, wow, that is a command vehicle. It's a tank. Yes, it's a tank, but it is a command vehicle. Command vehicles are hugely expensive things that you use to cap zones. I don't know why he's got that sitting in the open. I guess it's because he's probably a new player who's not played this before, in which case the victory doesn't really mean as much. However, I'm going to go and give myself some kudos and say, no, it's an experienced player and I was just too aggressive and he couldn't move up, which is just not true. So yeah, I'm going to start moving my forces up here. Spearheaded by my tanks, which he just has nothing to help defend against. There we go, the 200 points for destroying that tank. The enemy command vehicle right there, and I'm about to take out his anti-air. Nice couple of shots. And that's it done, so that's me firmly in the head. Just taking out his frontline forces. I'm not entirely sure why he didn't really have much else. I think this is the point where he starts panicking and bringing in more forces onto the battlefield, which is nice of him, because they were just going to roll right into my Challenger tanks, which is just going to destroy them. Obviously I have my infantry, which have moved up to the forest to support my tanks, so if he sends any infantry forward, they should be able to wipe them out before they get close enough to actually do any damage. So yeah, I started moving. I think my plan was to move everything up along that forest where they were, just to completely deny him that ground. And that means his forces are going to come along that road and they just have nothing to hide behind. They just have to come straight in and try and kind of crush through my lines. However, I knew my lines were strong enough to stop them. That is a tank attack on mine. I'm not too worried because I know what it was actually attacking them. I realised those two guys had taken a hit, so I've actually lost two of the infantry units, just because I wasn't too good at paying attention. However, I'm not entirely. Actually, no, I think that's just the Spartans. They didn't even have any infantry in them, so that was fine. That's them just coming along, walking themselves. So I just kind of sent those forwards as forward recon scouts, because they're basically just like armored cars with machine guns on top. You know, that's basically the cheapest army you can get. I mean, they probably will. A platoon of infantry will cost more. I shouldn't be that wasteful. It's a bad tactic, so don't do it. But at that moment, I was like, I think this guy is just going to be a walk in the park for me, so I'm just going to start sending things forward. At this point, I realised I've got my challengers on my right that I need to start moving up. I'm worried about their fuel, so I don't really move them up all that much, but I do eventually use them a bit more than before. I have a ton of points, so I go, you know what, I really want a unit that's on my right, so my army can come in from a bit closer but I want it to be able to be on the front lines, like from the right, so it doesn't get ambushed. So I'm going to go ahead and buy the actual tank instead of the normal command unit, which is the abbot. But not the abbot, the sultan, I think is the name. But yes, oh, my screen just backed out there. I send the anti-air to go on the far, I think I'm going to try and move my units up to the left, using that huge forest on the left as cover, which is obviously the infantryman's playground, and, whereas the tanks will have a lot of a harder time getting through it. If there's rough ground in this, if it's too rough, tanks and any kind of wheeled men later on track vehicles just will not be able to traverse it, so you can actually get your lighter infantry units around in the map. They're just a lot more mobile, so you can very much use that. And as it's set in Norway, I'm really hoping there are maps which are hugely infantry focused, because that would be a fantastic addition, and I think they would be very, very stupid not to capitalize on that, especially as one of the main games and aims in this is to come up with some more interesting maps, more vertical maps, especially as it's Norway and Scandinavia, that sort of thing. I do actually notice a helicopter at the top, but I'm just not too bothered by it because I have so much anti-air on the left. Because I've obviously got that stationary anti-air there, which is just going to wipe it out as soon as it gets in range. I also have the anti-air in the middle, so I'm on it. But unfortunately, obviously, I didn't realise that this helicopter was in range of the Spartan, so he takes a shot at that. However, I just move my Spartan back. His helicopter moves forward and nicely it starts going towards my forces. So that's fine for me. I don't mind him coming towards my lines. However, it does disappear. He doesn't immediately just come rushing into it, so that means I can't immediately take him out, which is a bit of a pity, but it does get destroyed eventually, which you'll be happy to hear. I'm not entirely sure when. I've done this commentary, I think it was a couple days after I actually filmed it. Wait, no, a day after I filmed it, because I've been really busy earning the monies for my trip this summer. So yeah, ideally would have done it straight away, so I actually remembered the fight the whole way through, but sadly, ends must meet beginnings. That's not the phrase. Making ends meet, that's the phrase. Anyway, I'll go for my tornado. I'm going to learn from last time. I'm going to get a fast jet to come in and take out this helicopter, and hopefully it won't get hit by anti-air. And I'm going to put my foot in the mouth here and say it doesn't get destroyed and it is successful. I'm almost certain that's true. Oh, this is where it doesn't happen. That's my jet coming in, and it sees a helicopter and it just goes in there and it has a lot of fun. So I've got my hand on the evac button there. Right there, just waiting. Do you see that anti-air just flinging through? I don't even go for just destroying the chopper. I just immediately go evac, because that anti-air is a missile and it's going to try and take out my plane. However, you see there, it did actually hit the plane, but luckily not enough to damage it properly. So it's going to be in the bottom left. You can see it in the airport panel, rearming and repairing, etc. So I did put my foot in my mouth and it did get hit. So at this point I go, right, I can't use my airplanes because this anti-air cover is just too powerful and there's no point in wasting them. So I go, you know what, I'm going to take foxtrot. To take foxtrot, I'm going to buy the cheapest, a load of cheap tanks just so I can roll in there and take it out. At this point my micromanaging skill does come down and I do lose some units. And it just shows you where the skill in this game really does come through. I mean, it is a tough thing to control in this game. You really need to be smart, and my unit choices aren't always the best. I'll learn as I play. I need to be faster on the mouse work, especially when I'm moving into objectives, and I need to get rid of this tunnel vision. But I feel like this game was fairly successful. Obviously, it was a bit playing against an enemy didn't necessarily know what it was doing. But I thought overall my strategy was very good. If he'd been a bit more aggressive, he would have just run onto a really strong defensive line of mine. So I think it just would have mean I won quicker, because it just means I could have destroyed him quicker. So I'm roughly halfway through the point scale. I was just waiting for them to be in range. However, obviously these guys are going to be able to shoot him, because if the rockets have a longer range than your actual guns and tanks. I'm not impressed by the first volley, I have to admit. I kind of stared and go, wow. Because, you know, 2 rockets just firing and just none of them actually hitting. Unfortunately, I do take a miss there, and then immediately I notice he's got some artillery hiding out there. He's smart, he has the artillery hiding in that vehicle, and he attacks me, so I immediately send it back. However, by the time my artillery hits, he's actually moved his artillery. As you can see, I lose an infantry platoon to a direct hit from his artillery. Really isn't much I can do, so I send my normal infantry force. These are my very cheap infantry, my normal rifles, so the British rifles, forward to try and scout out, find that artillery and nail it down. They do find it by going up. They also find a helicopter. However, my Falcon is almost within range to take it out, but I also send in my tornado. So I'm just like, you know what, this helicopter is being taken down no matter what. So I take out my infantry, and they both use their machine guns to take on this this vehicle as approaching, which is it's better than nothing. But they're really not going to do much to it. They're really not going to do much. So I decide, you know what, shift your fire to the helicopter, do more to them than anything else. However, at that point, my tornado just comes in and lights it up, and that's it done. He tries to fire his anti-air and it almost hits it, but that's why his tornadoes are so much better, just because they're really good against dodging anti-air. So that's him out and safe again. However, now I know where his anti-air is, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to steamroll this place, and that anti-air does not last long. So my vehicles are sitting there just firing constantly at these guys, and I go, oh dear, that tank is going to destroy them. So you know what, these guys cost almost nothing. They can just die. And they get taken out by artillery. I'm pretty sure a direct hit there takes him out. I noticed where that shot was coming from, and I immediately go, right, let's see if I can catch him this time. Don't think I do, because he's very good at firing and then moving the artillery, and that once you move up, that's a very good tactic to do, because once you've fired, you just want to get out of there before the enemy retaliates. At this point I go, right, full frontal attack into Foxtrot, let's bring in all three of my airplanes on an airstrike to support the enemy. I've got my ATGMs coming in. Unfortunately, they're getting hit by infantry, so I pull them back a little, I'm pretty sure. And that's my Fusiliers just lost in the center. I then bring in some warriors, so that's normal infantry, so not too great infantry, but they're actually supported by warrior tanks, which we also still use today, obviously, but with a bit of an improved version of them. So they're a lot heavier. They're kind of like they're basically a light tank with a sort of a rapid fire cannon. So that's my Harriers coming in and absolutely destroying everything. You know, that's the enemy just being blitzed. So that was nice. A little close up on the destruction there with an airstrike. So I'm quite good at my airstrikes. I get quite a lot of points from one of my games. Almost all of my points go down to airstrikes. So I evac him as he fires his rockets, and it takes out the infantry very nicely. I love the destruction on the houses there. So that's that place clear. I can move the infantry, etc. in. Obviously that rocket is hitting my Challenger, and it does actually destroy one of my Challengers, which is a sad thing, because that would have been a lot of points for him for destroying a Challenger. I need to be a bit safer with them. Unfortunately, it gets taken out. I'm not entirely sure how that one got taken out, but it did. So it makes me very sad, and I go, I should not have lost that. So as you can probably tell, the enemy is actually fighting back at this point, even though he's taking a lot more losses than I am. He's still putting up a really good fight of it. Obviously, being aggressive usually means you lose more than a player on a defensive, so you really need to be very, very smart in how you strategize. And there we go, that's me taking out his enemy, which was nice, really nice. I then realized, oh dear, here's a plane, he could have nuked that town, I need some anti-air up here. So I bring up the anti-air in the middle, because most anti-airs, when they're moving, they can't necessarily fire. The cannon ones can, and I think my one does here, and manages to harm the enemy. Oh no, I'm talking out my ass again. I'm pretty sure it didn't, maybe it wasn't this game. Whereas the tracked rapier really can't. It can fire and move at the same time. The little fuel icon you can see on the tracked rapier there, and probably possibly earlier on my tanks, is there we are. The Falcon was firing at the aircraft there, and it did actually. And then I'd stop the tracked rapier and just get them to attack, and I managed to destroy it straight away in a hit, which was very nice. Anyway, that fuel canister there shows that they are running out of fuel. They can also run out of ammunition, so you need to resupply them. And I do that by bringing up a resupply vehicle. which is nice. And that's me victory. So that's me just destroying them, because obviously it's a race to the kills. There's a nice kill there, so I lost 705, but I killed 1,570. So it was a good game, and thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.